Welcome, everyone. My name is Cindy Teevens, author of Alchemy, How to Feel Good No Matter What, and The Happiness Lie, What Generations Have Been Told That Makes You Unhappy. And this is Dear Self Live. It's the spiritual version of Dear Abby. You may be seeking answers to why you act, feel, and react the way that you do. And this is the place to ask those questions. Because the answers come from within, no matter where they appear to come from. The dog, the tree, the guru, your enemy, they come from within. But you have to ask the question. If you don't ask the question, you won't get the answer. So tonight's topic is how to return to your natural self. Now, before we even get into that sort of begs the question, did you go somewhere? Did you leave your natural self somehow? Is there some place you have to go or something you have to do? It's not really that you left your natural self. You can't actually leave your natural self. What's happened is an unnatural self has arisen, and unknowingly, unconsciously, we could say. And so, how do you know that this has happened? Most people know that something's kind of off. Something's not quite right. Something has a bad smell. And it's usually in retrospect that we notice this, but in the heat of the moment of something, it's really not seen. That's not that it can't be seen. In fact, that's the purpose for suffering. And I include in suffering anger, pain, hurt, feeling disrespected. All of that is suffering. And the purpose of suffering is to wake you up out of the unconsciousness, out of the false self, so that you can apparently return to your natural self. And so what are we talking about? We're talking about an experience, right? An experience of the unnatural self feels, well, unnatural. It feels not you. How many times have you ever done something and later regretted it and really said, this it's not me? It's true, it's not you. So what's going on? What's going on is misidentification with something that's not you. And it feels bad and it causes trouble. And can we catch it in the moment? Yeah, you can catch it in the moment. By noticing, using the bad feeling, the bad taste. And sometimes it takes a lot of pain to wake us up. And sometimes it only comes to us retrospectively. But what I found was, at first it would come retrospectively, and then I would start to catch it earlier and earlier. I would start to notice it earlier and earlier. Largely because I saw that it was happening. I didn't feel that it was me. And I started to pay attention to what's actually going on, instead of the content of what's going on in the head or with other people. What's actually going on here with me. Because if you do this, you'll see what's going on. If you watch closely enough, you'll discover the false self, otherwise known as ego. What does it take? It takes a calm, peaceful mind. But of course, in the moment of insanity, there isn't anything calm or peaceful in the mind. But that's your red flag to wake you up. And that's your opportunity to notice this is not feeling good, this is not feeling right. And in that gap, in that little wee blessed gap, there's some space can happen. Space between one thought and the next thought, space between one word and the next word, space between one action and the next action. And the longer you make that gap, just by waiting, just by holding your tongue or stopping physically, the more space and peace will arise. And you will have an opportunity for something different to happen. Because within that gap, you can have a different perspective of things. You can realize that what's hurting you is not actually what's happening out there, but what's going on in here, because you'll notice it in that gap. You'll notice what's going on here. A bad feeling thought that you're believing about yourself or somebody else. And then you have an opportunity to do something different. And sometimes it doesn't matter what it is, but as long as it's radically different, this experience will change everything. If you just do nothing, you'll realize that you don't have to do anything, that nothing is driving you, nothing is forcing you to do or say anything, that you can just be still. On the outside, at least in the beginning, even if on the inside it's raging, be still anyway. And watch what happens. Watch the raging. Watch the gaps between the thoughts. Notice the thoughts versus reality. Reality never hurts. Thoughts about reality hurt. Is this the ultimate realizing of your natural state? No, but it's a good step. It's the next step. Because as long as mind is raging, the truth of your natural self can't be known. There's too much noise. And it's big because your power of attention is on it, magnifying it. And so the way to bring that back down is to pull your power of attention away from that noise. And how do you do that? You put it into the body, you put it into the senses. You come to your senses. People try to stop thinking, especially stop thinking bad things, and you just can't. What is that, stop thinking? It's another thought, isn't it? Oh, okay, stop thinking. That's what I have to do. Stop thinking. Now I'll think about stop thinking. Right. And the thoughts will just spin. Instead, feel your feet. Feel the top of your head. Take in your peripheral vision. Notice your breath moving in and moving out, because you are breathing. And what happens? Sudden stillness, sudden quiet, sudden spaciousness. It is from this spaciousness that other possibilities can arise. Like the possibility of knowing who you really are, the possibility of returning to your natural self that you never left, and recognizing your natural self, your true self. And so this stillness and spaciousness should be coveted. It should be desired. It should be honored. Above all else, above all the noise. I mean, number one, it feels better. Isn't that a good enough reason? It works better. Isn't that another good enough reason? But if you truly want to know who you are, this is the greatest reason. To be still. We hear some spiritual guidance like just stop what you're doing or be still. But that can be really received conceptually if you don't know what that means. So having a taste of it is very important. Because now you just don't know mentally. You don't have the mental thought, oh, stop, be still. Stop, be still. Stop, be still. And the mind spins. you actually have it embodied. You embody it. Because the difference between knowledge and wisdom is knowledge is a thought, knowledge, little sentence stored on the hard drive, and wisdom is applying it. And without applying it, thought knowledge is useless. You may as well be ignorant. You are ignorant. So, the instructions are to be followed. They're pointers. They won't do the work for you. They can't move your attention for you. This is why everybody is on their own. Once you have the knowledge and you connect that up to what that means in your body, mind, and being, then you apply it. And you apply it again and again and again and again until it becomes your natural way of being. You naturally keep the attention in the body, which is always here and now. It never leaves you. The body can't go off and play in the future. It can't go off and play in the past. So you can trust it. If you notice, all of your pains come from the past or the future. And actually, past and future are the same thing. Because what's future? Fear of the past. Or hope of the past. So there isn't actually any such thing as past or future. It's just a thought that happens now. Everything happens now. Has anything ever not happened now? So value the stillness that you can experience above all else. And mind might come in and say, oh, that's so quiet. It's just too boring. I just want to do something, get out my gizmo, and no. Fall in love with this. Fall in love with this and you become disenchanted with that. It would be sort of like the way I started running. I used to have this belief thought I was not a runner. I could not run. But the body went out and went around the track anyway, first walking and then trotting a little further and a little further till one day it made it all the way around the track. And up came the thought, oh, I'm a runner. This was a very long time ago. So it kind of snuck up on me. Me being the identification with thought when I used to think I was a thought. It's the funny thing, I was already running before mind came in and registered, I'm a runner. Then it happened. When you live in the mind, nothing happens until mind says it does. But that's not the actual truth of how things go. Everything just happens. And mind comes in after the fact. But if you miss this, and if you identify with thought, then you think you are deciding things. You think you are just commenting on what already is, but you're not. You're commenting on what already was. And if the word is a generalized word, you're forecasting it into the future. So you're limiting yourself. So that's all you will ever perceive. Because you've colored your view with thought, as thought. So it does become very much like you're living in the mind. And it's not real. And this is why we call it illusory. And some of my clients even say that life is dead. That sounds like a very strange thing at first until you understand their experience. Their experience isn't of the body, isn't of the ever-changing, moment-to-moment, rich vastness of life. The taste, the colors, the smells, the entire ungraspable experience. Their experience is of the mind. and whatever limitations the mind has set. And since the mind is a broken record, it becomes very boring, becomes very repetitive, becomes very dead. Of course, life is not dead. But believing the thought life is dead can feel like it. However that feels. So to return to your natural self is to return to the spaciousness, where nothing is rejected and nothing is grasped at, but everything can come and go effortlessly. And until you have a direct recognition of who or what you are, in truth, you will need to continually bring your attention back to your senses, back to the body, back to this moment, out of the stream of thinking. And you may habitually, at one point, stay here more often than you go out. You may notice that one day. It'll sneak up on you. And you can even largely stay here. And then you become enlightenment prone. It's been said that enlightenment is an accident. Well, you can become enlightenment prone, staying in the silence, the stillness and the spaciousness. And that's not enough, though. From within the silence and the spaciousness must come the inquiry of who am I? In order to help you stay in the silence, you need to see the false ego. You need to see what this is. You need to extract yourself from the ego, from that. And so this is the other value, the initial value of the silence. Because you'll find there's times during the silence, you'll notice there's no thought. And I exist. I am here now without thought. And then when thought comes back in, you can notice it. Okay, I'm going to throw the mics open soon. I will, if anybody has any questions on the board at alchemylovejoy.com, feel free to type a question in there at any time, and I'll answer it here live. And in a few moments, I'll go over to my live guest and see if there's any questions there regarding this. So, yes, falling in love with the peace, the silence, the spaciousness. You may notice there's a natural joy arises. Natural wisdom arises. A holistic knowledge arises. You do the best for the whole ecology because it's all taken in, it's all noticed, it's all available. Not just the I thought that used to be running. So we have a question on the board. And it's, so is there nothing the small I can do to change anything that may seem to be happening? No. No. Because it's all concocted as the I. The I is concocting it. So how can it change it? What has to happen is the small I has to be revealed. It has to be exposed for what it is as not you. And then it falls away. It disappears. And all the problems go with it. Did that answer your question? Let me know. And if my live guest has a question, would like to come on and say hello, feel free. to unmute yourself. You know, I hear a lot of people talk about their ego, and you can't meaningfully talk about your ego, because that would mean there's you and your ego, and you're aware of them both. But these two cannot coexist together knowingly. If you actually saw what the ego is, it would self-implode. It would lose the foothold of its miserly, fleeting life. It doesn't have a life. It's a phenomena. It's a momentary phenomena. It's not sentient. So until you've seen the truth, the ego speaks. If there were a moment that it wasn't the ego speaking, you wouldn't know it, because you don't know the difference. The difference needs to be seen. Discernment needs to be used. How can you discern when there's all this noise going on in your head? You can't. Good, good. The answer was what he expected. Very good. So, you are not a thought, but you can identify with thought. Your very self is believed to be a thought, and it's not even seen, it's not even known. Once seen, as I was saying, it crumbles. It can never be believed again. It can arise, thought can arise. But because you now know it's not you, you're grounded as yourself. You've returned to your natural self without having gone anywhere. What goes is the false I, the little I, the ego. It disappears, it dissolves. Any other questions? Feel free. So yeah, to speak of my ego, what do most people say when they say my ego? What they're really meaning is a bad thought, feeling. And I lump them together because they arise together. Thought, feelings arise together. They feed each other. And so what people are calling their ego is a bad thought feeling. But that's not what ego is. You can have the worst thoughts in the world, and that's still not what ego is. Ego is this very strange phenomena, a mix of you plus thought, as if it's a separate entity, but it's not. Some of the work I do is exposing the ego with people. And when it first happens, there's this great upheaval. And then there's laughter. And then after a while, it's tested. Thought comes in again. It's okay for thought to come in. Thought's not a problem. But on whose authority? Is it given power, reality, truth? Yours? Or yours as you confused as a thought? Ego. And then after the upheaval, a lot of stillness can come. Very deep pull into stillness. And then you'll probably be tested again. but it gets weaker and weaker. The momentum of mind gets weaker and weaker. And you have less and less interest. Can you do this on your own? It's best if you have someone guide you through it, because you can't identify the false I. Unless you've had a direct seeing of the truth of yourself. That's what happened with me. I had that first. And so I could stand on that and work from that. And when ego was exposed, there wasn't that much upheaval. And there wasn't much more life left to the ego. So by all means, you're like a chicken and an egg, a baby chick pecking on the shell, not knowing why you're pecking, not knowing what's on the other side. There's just this drive, and it's so natural. So keep going, move forward, keep pecking. Get your answers from the apparent outside, because they only come from within. Ultimately, anyway, you're the one that says yes. Ultimately, you have to say yes. You are the final authority. No thing and nobody else. The real you, not the you as the small I. Any other questions? If not, I'll wrap it up for the night and wish you well for another week. Dear Self will be moving to Saturday 3 p.m. It seems like more people are available at 3 p.m. than at 8 p.m. A few people have complained gently. So I will be moving to Saturday 3 p.m. and see how that works for the majority. I'll look forward to chatting next time. Seek joy, seek the peace, the space, just because you can, just because you are. Enjoy.